So let's start with a story. This is this Uber story. I guess a couple of you have already heard it. But here is 2022, and the setup is Uber's office. So the Uber employees receive a message on their official Slack channel, which looks something like this. And this message is from a hacker who says that, hi, the channel. Around there, I'm a hacker and Uber has suffered a breach. Then the hacker continues to give the details about the breach. So this basically includes the hacker telling everyone that their Slack channel has been hacked. The data from the conference has been stolen, and they have gained access to their repos. So this was a pretty serious thing, but this was a cool way to tell everyone that their organization has been hacked. So today we'll be diving into this and a few more stories where some organizations became targets of breaches and suffered losses, and how implementing a simple procedure could have avoided this. So hi everyone, I'm Abhay Yadav. I'm a User Lifecycle Management expert, and I've been working with organizations all over the globe for the last couple of, let's say, over 7 years, and I've been helping them to implement User Lifecycle Management in their organization. So let's start. So lifecycle management basically, so today what we'll be discussing is what are the major steps involved in lifecycle management and how to implement it, why exactly is it required to implement it, and what will happen if we don't do that. So let's start. So the major, as the name suggests, it's a user lifecycle management, so it simply covers the lifecycle of the user. So when the user gets onboarded, whatever the changes that the user account goes through, and till the end when the user leaves. So this has major 3 parts. Joiner. So joiner basically covers our part when the user gets onboarded, when we simply onboard a user account. Let's say a new employee joins a company. In this part, like if you attended the previous session, like Abhi mentioned, AD. Most of the enterprises either use Active Directory or they have some HRMS where their HR will be onboarding the user, or simply the IT guy goes and creates a account each and every place. So something like that. In case of, let's say we are talking about consumers, then they can simply do a social login or they can register themselves. So today we will be mainly talking about enterprises, how enterprises actually manage that. Then comes the second part, which is mover. A mover is simply a user account which has any type of change. Let's say a user got promoted and their designation changed. You have to change it in their privileges and all of the applications. Let's say their phone number changed, or they got transferred to a different department, or someone got married and got their name changed. But this change has to be transitioned in each and every application. So that's the part of where the mover comes into the picture. Leaver, as the name suggests, someone leaves the organization, we simply have to offboard that user. Okay, so what are the challenges with the current scheme? What the organizations who are not using this, what exactly happens there? So the main challenges that the picture is new employees does it. The HR simply tells the IT guy that this is a new employee, we have to create the account in each and every application. The IT guy sits and he starts creating an account in each and every application. The problem with this thing is it's still working till now. There are organizations who are doing this, but the problem is this is not in sync. Each and every process is manual, and the unsynchronous parameter. So what happens is, let's say today a single employee is running. Let's say we are talking about a startup. A single employee joined the company. The HR tells the ID guy to create the account. The most important thing is a single person is creating the account in each and every account, in each and every application. So let's say there are 10 applications and the IT guy forgets one of that. If I have that employee, I don't get access to that application, I'm not going to work. This is also productivity. Let's talk about this on a bigger scale. That organization closed. Today, let's say a single employee is running. Tomorrow the company does mass hiring. There are 50 employees running the company. How do we scale that? Onboarding 50 users. Okay. Am I still? Yes. Okay. Onboarding 50 plus users at a single day, and still if we are doing the manual work and if everything is not in sync, This is definitely prone to human errors. Even onboarding a single user is prone to human errors. Then if we go for the mass implementation of this, then that's definitely getting some errors. Then coming on the human, obviously, if that IT department is doing this on a single day, then obviously they're getting the human button. Like I explained, if I don't get the access on time, there will be loss of productivity. So these are the major challenges that the current industry was facing. To solve this, the process that was included was the user lifecycle management. So before we dive into that, the major question, why exactly go through all that trouble? So now, let's talk about those stories with which we started. The first one was Uber. I think that Slack channel. So what happened was, an 18-year-old guy, he got credentials of an Uber employee who recently left the organization after 3 months or something. Their credentials were provided on dark web. This 18-year-old guy bought those credentials. He tried logging into the Uber system. Unfortunately for him, Uber has a policy that there has to be MFA implemented on each and every system. So a push notification, a push SMS is sent on each and every phone number for that. So what happens is, if I'm that employee, I try to enter my credentials, an SMS will be sent to me, and I have to click on either accept or deny to log that user in. So this SMS was sent to that ex-employee. Now, as soon as the hacker realized this, what he did was, he called that employee. He said that he is speaking from Uber's security department and they need access to their account to sanitize that account, whatever that means. So now the thing is, the user has already got a notification that, okay, my previous organization is trying to access my account. So what he did was what anyone would have done. He simply told the user that I have left the organization, I have nothing to do with you guys, so call me, and he got the phone. He didn't accept it. Now what the hacker did was more interesting. He started spamming that user. He tried again and again. Let's say in 1 hour, he's getting 20 notifications. So that user got irritated, and just to get rid of those notifications, he simply accepted it. This is where it all started. So now what that user did was, he gained access to whatever the account was. That user also had access to one of the servers. The hacker got access to the server. Now that server contained a couple of scripts. Now if any one of you have seen scripts on our servers, if they need any kind of privileges, let's say they need admin privilege, we keep the admin credentials in the script itself. Most of us do. That's a bad practice, but yes, people should. So we pop admin credentials. Then using those credentials, they started accessing more applications, and within a couple of hours, this was the message on Uber Slack channel. This was the official employee Slack channel. And after that, he got access to a couple of repositories as well. Now, good thing about this was just an 18-year-old guy. He didn't have any intent of extracting money from Uber or something like that. He just wanted to show off his skills, and he just wanted people to know what he had pulled off. So what he did was, he told Uber that what I pulled off. So this is a WhatsApp chat with one of the network admins. So this guy started to think how exactly he did that. So as you can see, he simply told them that I accessed your internet account. When the user asked, how did you get the access? Simple social engineering on an employee, got the VPN, scanned the internet, and got it. Now coming to the details. Yeah, one of the surprising things over here. First of all, Uber is very lucky that hacker wasn't actually a cyber criminal. This is a huge understatement because this is anyone's tweet getting into Uber's system, but that did nothing. Surprisingly, this is not the first time that Uber was hacked. In 2016, a group of hackers, they copied information of all the drivers and all the customers of Uber. What they did was, what any hacker does, they blackmailed Uber. What Uber did was even more interesting. They paid the ransom amount. They paid $100K in 100K, yes, it was 100K ransom. They paid it for deleting a stolen copy of data. Along with that, they asked the hackers to sign a non-disclosure agreement to cover it all up. They said that it was a bug bounty program and this is just a reward. This is not a ransom. So with that kind of history, this 2022 thing that got out, this was really an embarrassment, but Uber was lucky that it still wasn't because the guy did nothing. Coming to another story is Equifax. In 2017, the data of Equifax was breached and the data was leaked. It was data of around 140 million users. Now, there were lawsuits. I guess this was in 2017, and till 2021, Equifax was still facing lawsuits. So in total, the loss was $700 million. But it was found that how exactly that happened. The major cause of it was, where it all started, was one of the accounts of an ex-employee, which shouldn't have been there. Target, I guess many of you must have heard this. This was one of the biggest lawsuits in the past decade. So that attackers, actually they didn't target the target. What they did was, they targeted a third-party vendor which worked with them. So what they did was, they targeted Federal Mechanical. Now, one of the employees who was recently terminated, what he did was, no one mentions that, so somehow his credentials got leaked. That was terminated, but somehow, okay, but no it went well. But his credentials was leaked. And being an ex-employee, you already know the workarounds of the system. So what he did was, he used to be give the credentials. So he did nothing with that account, but hackers pulled up those credentials from back then. Now they started this attack on Black Friday. And most of you must be aware of the Black Friday. It was into 2013, even then, in the past decade, that was the biggest shopping day of the year in the entire world. So they started copying data, the credit card history and the credit card details and debit card details of the users, whoever was using, whoever was swiping their cards, they started copying that data. 110 million users, 110 million credit card details were stored at that. Of course, no suits followed. The recovery costs were $250 million. Legal expenses were $80.5 million. The total estimated the total estimation of damages was around $700 million. And this does not cover whether I'm talking about Target or I talk about Uber. Whatever the figures I mentioned, I didn't cover the market, the stock market. Now, thing is, this kind of breach is, it's not about the security breach or it's not about the damages. The major thing that affects the organizations is your users lose faith. So what customers did was, they hesitated in shopping at Target. Walmart got advantage of that. But the thing is, you will lose users. Okay, how this could have been prevented? There are simple questions that could have been asked. One, should that account be in the system? The three cases that I covered, these were either ex-employees or someone who were terminated. Whatever, they were not working in the system. That account shouldn't have been there in the first place. In case we have seen multiple breaches where the user account has to be there. In case that account has to be there, the second question to be asked is, does it have the minimum privileges required by them? So generally what we follow is the minimum privilege principle. Any account should have only those privileges in which they can do their work, nothing more. So it's not like we make him an admin and he can do everything that they want and the rest of the privileges will be there, not at all. And these are the two simple questions that you put. There is no third question coming up. So I've been working with organizations for a long time. These are the two things always that we talk about. Are they both accounts in the system? And the accounts in the system, whichever are there, are the privileged level. We don't have to talk about anything else. This is the simple part that could have been covered. Okay, now coming to the actual lifecycle management. It mainly includes 4 parts. There should always be a single source of truth. When I say a single source of truth, like we were talking earlier, when an employee is onboarded or something, some industries follow the active directory mechanism, some of them follow the HRMS system, some of them have an IDP of their own where they keep the users. So there should always be one single source of truth. There are organizations who are onboarding users in different applications. Like if I'm doing it manually, I delete the application is, let's say I have to remove some user, I simply remove some user from our application, they are still present in other ones. Or if I have to give access to a single application, I simply create that user over there and IDP has all knowledge about that. Something like that, that shouldn't be the case. So when I talk about single source approach, mainly those two, the Active Directory and SLMS, are followed in enterprises. Some of the enterprises, what they are doing is they are onboarding, they are getting this user lifecycle management now, but they have been in market since a decade. So in that case, what they have is they already have their users present in multiple databases. In that case, what we generally do is we bring all the users to either to a single base, or if they already have a single source of truth. If it is even if it is an extra entity, that's also fine. But the main point is there should always be a single source of truth. And from that single source of truth, the users will be synced to other applications. Now, when we talk about user sync, it's not just about creating a user in other applications with simply that email address. It's about getting all the privileges, all the attributes of that user to the applications which might be needed in the application. So this includes attribute mapping. So attribute mapping, how many of you actually know about attribute mapping? I'll show that. Okay, couple of minutes over there. So basically, for those who didn't miss, so it's the mapping of attributes. Let's say in one application you call an attribute of mobile number, and another application calls it a contact number, or if they call it a telephone number or something like that. You simply need to map the attribute, which attribute will be mapped to which attribute, and the other application. That's it. Then comes the attribute transformation. Let's say some of your application log in with the username. In some of the application, you need to change that username to domain/username, like any we do. Or in some of the applications, you need the username at the end of whatever your domain name or the organization is. So that all comes in attribute transformation. Then comes the group sync. The group defines your privileges. In your single source of truth, you will be defining the group of the user. Once that group is passed, all your applications will define the privilege that has to be given to that particular group. This way, you don't give any extra privilege to the user. Password sync, let's say there are 10 applications, I am logged into one of them, that's not my source of truth, and I simply go and change the password over there. My truth source should know that the password is changed. It has been on the way back. Attribute-based group mapping, the same thing, is almost the same thing as group sync. Based on a single attribute, the application decides which privilege to give to that particular user. Okay, now coming to the second part of this lifecycle, automated user lifecycle. We already discussed the issues with, what are the issues with manual approach. So everything should be automated, means if we have a scenario, this should be connected. While onboarding the user, the HR simply creates the user either in the HRMS or is not miniOrange, whatever identity you are using. Yeah, it's not this miniOrange. So the HR simply has to create a user at a single place, either it is the HRMS or the IDP, and that IDP or whatever you are using. It's their responsibility to migrate it to all the applications. Simply report, if a user is added by the HR, then it has to be migrated to all the applications. If the user is being updated, all the applications should know about it. Most important part, which could have saved the previous examples, was this. If an employee is leaving the organization, HRS will remove that employee from a single place and from all the applications that account should be written. The connected resources, as we saw in the previous image, all the resources should be connected, straightforward. If you have to automate it, yes, your resources have to be connected. So, like I mentioned, I may use miniOrange for this, for implementing user lifecycle. So what we generally do is we have integrated a lot of applications within miniOrange itself. In case there is some applications which we have not already integrated, we use the SCIM protocol. So the SCIM protocol is basically used to sync users to cross-domain. It's used to maintain the identities cross-domain. So what generally happens is if an application is not present in our provisioning catalog, then and if that application supports either SCIM protocol or any API, we do support that. So basically, the whole part comes to that application has to be connected. The last part of it comes is auditing and reporting, of course. If you have been attending sessions from yesterday, I think each and every session covered this part. The auditing and reporting part is compulsory. So we simply tells the user with a report if the user was provisioned or not, if he was provisioned in all the applications or not. In case some application threw an error back, what was that error and why did it happen and how we can rectify that. So all this is covered in our auditing and reporting part. Okay, I have a demo ready for you how exactly that works. Is this visible or should I just do enough? Visible? Okay. So basically what happens is I've taken over here miniOrange and one application which is AWS. So I go to the user list. So I'm simply searching for a user. That user does not exist in miniOrange. Let me switch to Amazon. And then yes. The user doesn't exist here as well. Now this is where the HR comes in the picture or the main admin. They'll simply create an account of that user at a single place. Whether it is the IDP case, this is the IDP, or it is the HRMS. We can simply connect our IDP to that HRMS. So when this user account is created, now the job of this IDP is to tell each and every application that this account has been created and you guys have to create this account with these details. So the account has been created over here. Give it a couple of minutes. The format will get fresh. Okay, that user got created over here. Let's see the attributes. With some attributes, these are the same attributes in the visible there. Now let's see the phone number. There I missed the mobile number. Or let's say there was a mobile number present and the user updated it. So I don't have to go to that application and change anything. Whatever will be changed in that single source of truth. So that other applications know as well. Is this really visible to them? If you want, I can switch to the level. Okay. So I updated the mobile number. And the mobile number got updated here as well. Well, in case it's not visible, then you can visit upwards. And I'll show you more with this, the same thing with a couple of more features. Okay, the name, I changed the name over here. Let's say someone got fired, they got the name changed. And when I refresh the system, that change is conveyed here as well. Now coming to the most important part of it. What if I delete that user?
I'm so excited. Excellent.
That personality. If I go to the user list and if I search for that user, I won't find it. So this example is just with one of the applications. This happens with, we have customers who have had spotting this applications. And this gets conveyed within a couple of minutes. So what we simply have to do is we simply have to remove an account or update an account, and this gets conveyed to 30 plus applications within a couple of minutes. So this is how efficient that system is. Okay, key takeaways. So what we mainly discussed today was the manual onboarding and offboarding, how cumbersome it is. And it's prone to errors. We also covered user lifecycle, the single source of truth. It always should be automated. The resources have to be connected, and the auditing and reporting part of it. Also, why is it necessary to implement it, and how those organizations could have saved a couple of millions of dollars. Some of them reached billions, But in the last decade, this amount reached approx $3 to $4 billion for organizations, which could have been saved just by following this simple process that if you remove a user, that should be removed. Okay, yes, this was it from my end. Any questions? And those who don't have a question, you can simply scan and give us a feedback. Again, yes.
Will there be road functions that there is the topic there, like user lifecycle management, and we talk about stability, some issues, and almost always the solution is the topic to me. But I did it.
That's a good one. So, okay. To answer that question, first of all, I agree with you. I have also seen this case. A single program can have multiple solutions, first of all. Secondly, let's pick an example over here. That is one. So we talked about Uber. Yes. Let's talk about this. So today we are discussing about lifecycle management. If this was a social engineering session, so like that hacker mentioned, I social engineered an employee that got access to the internet. I would have shown the same PPT, I would have shown everything same, and I would have said, if we just followed awareness around social awareness, the social engineering, we could have avoided. So, yeah, your question is right. So it's not just a single practice that saves a system. It's keeping a system healthy is safe as keeping ourselves healthy. It's not a single thing. It's not like you can go to the gym and you're healthy. You have to go to the gym, you have to follow some diet, you have to follow a lot of procedure. Your system has to do the same thing. You have to follow a lot of things, and it's not a goal that you achieve. It's it's something that you have to do repeatedly. So that's what happens over here. So whichever sessions we talk about, pretty sure we can fit something in over here. Like if I say, if that user was aware, he didn't fall into this. If we simply make this a session about social engineering and I'll focus on that, and I'll say this wouldn't have happened if that user was aware. Today we are talking about lifecycle management, so I'm talking about that user account shouldn't have been there in the first place. So the point is right, there are multiple solutions to it, but today's session is about lifecycle management. So this was the solution that's got us.
I wanted to ask this, like, how does if the company will offset the appearing there are huge number of employees, and if there is like a privilege escalation, how does the HR estimate this if there is some change in the AD or maybe in HR?
But it's not always the HR. I used HR because I am more familiar with that. So it's generally the IT admin or the admin of your IDP. So simply the auditing and reporting part can handle that. We have seen some cases where a single application was causing some issue, and simply looking at the logs, we can find out that wherever the issue is, if that user is present in the source or not. So basically, your auditing should be that detailed.
Like there are people who also brought in their footprints, but in the like logs. So that is what I'm trying to say. Like how, like creating a user is a huge task. We speak some manual at last. So if the database is used, like let's say for 500 employees, and if the privilege has been estimated, or the hacker added in this skill, the hacker what the admin privileges, and he created a user. And it's showing that is how the HRs come to in in a manual way. What is the way that is scrutinized? That this is not the actual user that belongs to this organization.
Okay, in that case, whenever someone notifies or whenever the admins come to know that this has happened, so the first thing that happens is, like mentioned, the scrutiny of that entire time. What exactly happened in that entire time frame? Again, we come to the logs. Because your logging has to be that detailed, what each and every user is doing when a user is getting created at whatever is happening. So we simply scan through all the logs. Those are a lot of logs, because when I say it has to be detailed, we are talking about a lot of logs. But we are not talking about a single person going through this. We are talking about a system. and we are talking about an entire team. So we simply go through what happened in that entire time frame when that breach happened. Each and every log, when that person got it, what did he do? Where, if he created new users, if he simply escalated the privileges of an existing user. The main key comes to all this has to be down, so that we can simply go through the logs and check what exactly happened.
One more question. In this Uber case or in some of the couple cases, it was on the account which was active, was the main, you can say the main part.
Yeah.
What if we do in one thing that in AD, if we just mention that if he doesn't log in within 15 days, or it will get auto-disabled. So if it's get disabled, so there is no point of hacking. So can we add this in the life cycle?
That's a very good part. Yes, we can add it in life cycle. So we are actually editing everything in the life cycle. So what's happening is, and it's not just about if the account was not logged in last 15 days. Nowadays, what we are working on is if a employee simply informs that he's going on a vacation for, let's say, a week, the privileges of that account are removed. So one good thing working with a couple of more companies. So we have a feature which is brokering. So we work with other organizations where we simply use their database as source of truth. So when we do that, we get to work with their admins as well. So when the miniOrange admins and their admins are working, we simply, if you are in the same field, you talk about what exactly is happening in your place, what's happening in mine. So what happens is, recently I was talking to a workforce lab. So in their case, what happens is that particular admin, when he logs out of the day, next day when he's coming in, when he logs in into his system, he's logged in as a normal user, is not logged in as an admin. After 5 minutes, he has to enter some credentials, he has to enter some, MFA and everything. After that, his account is promoted to being an admin. So these are the practices that are coming in future of lifecycle management to rip off all the privileges if the user has logged out. So yes, but that was a very good point. We started from that. If a user account is not in the picture, if it is not being used, then at least the privileges should be removed. If you are automating user account, at least it shouldn't have any privileges.
As you mentioned, there is in IT, if there are any bandwidths work, if there are a lot of manual work. So if you make it auto-disabled, so in the meantime, it will get disabled, and when he gets the time, then he will remove it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If there was a future of life cycle, this point definitely would have.
Suppose we have said in 2 days we disable the engine, but 2 days is also not a small time. No, I don't want to do that.
No,
I can do anything in 2 days.
No, I'm saying in AD, if you mention the last date, it will get auto-disabled, and when he'll get the time, he'll remove the access. So if it's get disabled, so there is no point of getting access, right?
Yes, and if you disable that user in AD, using that feature or say streak, then that interest should also be disabled in other applications.
We will use miniOrange for
That's it.
Yes.
The good point. That was the whole point of the slide. Okay, any more questions? Those are good ones.
I saw what's up the back raised hands.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, he said that whenever there is change of the user attitudes of center, this convey to applications.
Yes.
So why that is required? That is because applications are caching something for the user ID and not retrieving things from the single.
No, it's not just about caching. Something is when the user got created, or let's say if this was not in cell, an account was created in that particular application. So the user won't come and access that particular source of codes. They can simply attack that application itself. That account exists on that application. So we have to remove that account as well. So my part was whenever it is being removed from symbols of that source of codes, all the application should remove that account, because this was the main point, that the account which is not required in an application shouldn't be there. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. What I'm trying to understand is why individual applications are also holding the data of the user.
To access something in an application, you need an account of that application. Well, let's say if I have to access any such, let's say if I have to go to a Zoom meeting, I have to have a Zoom account.
Okay. And I'm not being with, with AD account. It can be SSO, right?
It can be SSO, but even in case of SSO, what happens is You log in using the credentials of your either Active Directory or IDP, whatever you're using. You log in using those credentials, but when you enter those credentials, it sends a response back to your application. And your application logs your user account in, but your user account is still present in that application.
Which is until your session is there, right?
Yes. So ideally what happens is you can access it using that account, but that application also has an account. It's just you don't know the password of that account or the password wasn't created, but that account is still there. So the point was, what if someone gets access to that particular account? So that is why we have to remove that account as well. And where is?
Just a question like, what if there is a dependency on that account? For example, there might be some cases that I need that account for that situation. Like for example, he is a C-suite user or any kind of VIP user, and for certain scenario, I need what kind of data he is holding. For example, his mail, what kind of like attachment, he has some kind of attachment in that scenario. Because if I disable that account, after a certain time I have to delete it also. But what if there is a scenario that after a month I want that data, what kind of file he access, what kind of location he went, what all application he access, what kind of changes he made, every kind of thing.
Okay, so there are two parts of that question. One is knowing whatever that user did. What if I delete that user and how will I get that data? So, like I mentioned, when you're doing the auditing and reporting, whenever you delete a user, that auditing is not going anywhere. You already have those reports. You simply have to go through those reports that what exactly that user did. Another part of the question was, what if I need that account for something else? Then in that case, you have asked the second question, does that account have minimum privileges? But to answer your question, those things are figured out through the logs and all that. So that we can simply delete that account there, but we still have the data, what exactly that user did. Yes, sir.
From the perspective of internal threat, and like you've been doing on that, who validates the account creator? Like what is the process or what is the background thing which validates who is actually creating this?
Now this is of the organization who appoints that particular admin. So generally it's not a single person. It's a team that works on the system. And in some cases we have also seen, let's say, if we have to give some, because if I am the single person creating this account, even if it is automated to our system, but if I'm a single person, someday I'll be the bottleneck for that. So what simply the users do, they give permissions to other users to create the user, but they have to get an approval from someone. So there is always someone on top of someone who gives that approval that yes, this has to be created. That's more questions. Those are adult questions to get somebody scared. That's your like that. Oh, sorry. My bad. Thank you. There. Sorry to answer that question as Eric says that. Okay, evidence. I guess that's all. Thank you.